Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to do Atomfall on APU iGPU. I have 4 iGPU APU to test, the Ryzen 5 5600G with the Vega 7, the Ryzen 5 2400G with the RX Vega 11, the Ryzen 3 2200G with the Vega 8, and Intel UHD 770. I don't have any Intel Arc integrated GPU or Iris. I didn't test any AM5 APU either. Welcome to Response PC. I'm Dunk. Let's game on. Starting off with the Ryzen 5 5600G, which use a Vega 7 APU, is doing quite okay, to be honest. We're playing at 1080p, lowest settings, and no upscaling. We get 28 FPS. By the way, my memory is 32 GB of DDR4 at 3600 MHz. But that 28 FPS is quite smooth, so you can be okay to play at that resolution and that settings. We get as high as 37 FPS, but we also get as low as 22 FPS. So if you want to have over 30 FPS with the Vega 7 from the Ryzen 5 5600G, you're going to use some upscaling, and in this case 85% seems to be a sweet spot, because we get an average of 34 FPS. Even in some area I get even up to 50 FPS, and my lowest average was 31 FPS. The gameplay was also super smooth, no stutter, and the hardware have some headroom to play with. The Ryzen 5 5600 was only at 20% of its utilization. GPU is pegged at 99, obviously, that's what you want, and we're using only 10.3 GB of RAM out of 32, so 16 should be enough. Now quickly doing the UHD 770, integrated the graphic from Intel. The game will launch, you'll reach the menu, you can go in settings and change the graphics, but once you launch your game, it will load and then crash. And trying different graphic settings for the game always crash after it finished loading. And the only error it gives you is GPU device was lost, game cannot continue. And that's all. Back to the APU, the Ryzen 3 2400G, which contains a RX Vega 11. We're still at 1080p and low settings, and since the Ryzen 5 5600G with the Vega 7 need 85% of upscaling, I already put it at 70% upscaling for the RX Vega 11. And that will be the perfect number, as upscaling 70%, low settings, we get 33 FPS, sometimes dipping in the high 20s, but not too bad. For the utilization, the GPU is pegged at 99%, the CPU is in the 30s, and we're using 7.5 GB of RAM. I didn't encounter any stutter, and the gameplay was super smooth. And finally, the Ryzen 3 2200G with a Vega 8 APU. Now this time we need to drop the upscaling to 65%, and it starts to look a little bit too much Vaseline for my taste. And with the 65 upscaling is to get 30 FPS, exactly 30. So you may encounter even lower FPS in the first city village, or when there's a lot of enemies. It is barely playable. It is playable, but barely. GPU is pegged at 1%, using 72 to 80% of the CPU utilization. This is quite limit to be a CPU bottleneck on top of that, and using 8.6 GB of RAM. In the end, APU iGPU can actually play this game. This is quite nice, opening the door to have more players to buy your game, and I'm pretty sure that the AM5 APU will be able to get this game running quite well also. So the Ryzen whatever 8500G or 8400G or 8700G will be able to play this game, and probably some integrated Arc from laptop or Iris, maybe. I don't have any of those yet, so unable for me to test, but the Ryzen 5 5600G can. The one is higher than it will highly likely be able to. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one, and subscribe.